The NFLPA's report cards grading NFL franchises on a variety of topics from the 2025-2026 NFL season has released, despite the NFL and its owners suing the NFLPA to prevent their annual release of these grades. Over 1,600 NFL players annually grade their franchises they played for the previous season on a variety of topics that range from treatment of families all the way to how their franchise's ownership acts. Today, we're going to discuss the biggest takeaways from the 2026 grades and why these grades are important as a whole. This is Son of a Sports, and today, let's talk about the NFLPA's report cards for the 2025-2026 season. And before I dive into the takeaways and the things that have changed, because there are changes this year, I need to talk about why this is important because I don't feel like there's enough people that are aware of this. It's important because, like everyone else in society, jobs matter. What you get at a job matters. Yes, you are making millions of dollars, but you need to be prepared as an NFL player for if the organization treats their family right, if they have a nutritionist or you need to bring your own. Is the locker room good? Is the training staff good? There's a team this year that dropped 14 spots because their training staff and training room wasn't adequate to what the franchise's players once thought it was. There's teams in here that have great everything else, but their training staff isn't enough for them. Are their strength coaches good? Is the ownership treating people right? Teams have been forced to look in the mirror across the board over the last few years. Cleveland is building new facilities because of these grades. Arizona consistently is at the bottom of these grades every single year, and now they'll have a new everything by 2028 except locker room. That is massive. That is a massive first step. Their facilities are awful, consistently ranked at the worst in the league. 2024, 2025, we saw them have an F- locker room, a D- training room, a F weight room, a D- dining area. 2 years ago, it was reported that the Cardinals actually made players pay most days of the week for food. It's a weird situation, but it's something that matters for people that are looking for employment, whether or not they're making millions. And on top of that, it helps prepare draft picks that have to look at this and say, how can I get prepared for the NFL level? With all that said, let's go through the takeaways now. I think we kind of have to start with the negative. I'm typically not one in these videos to just draw out the negative attention of stories, but I think it's important that we talk about that in this situation. The Pittsburgh Steelers. And I think Steelers fans have made it clear on social media for a while that they're not happy with ownership, but their ownership got a D- in these rankings. They got the worst rank in the NFLPA this year for a lot of reasons. The reason the Cardinals aren't last, they got 31st, is there was something added called home game field. How is your home field ranked across the league? The Steelers have an F- there. It brought them from 28th in 2025 to 32nd in 2026. The Steelers, though, across the board, D- in ownership, team travel, an F. They have a locker room that's an F-, a home game field, an F-, a treatment of families, an F. It's not great. They have some good things, but the thing you notice is head coach, A. Tomlin covered up a lot of the things that ownership messed up with for a while. Tomlin was a player's coach, and that was clear, but going forward, I wonder how the dynamics change in Pittsburgh without the guy there that was a player's coach in Tomlin. McCarthy might be a guy that can get to the players, but Tomlin's Tomlin, man. I mean, he is the player's coach, and that was his thing even towards the end when he was not great. And on top of all that, a D- makes it clear right away. There is something there, and Rooney was one of the guys that didn't want this report card released at all. And there's parts of the survey that aren't released this year because the NFLPA didn't exactly release this. Reporters did. It got leaked. But the quotes that are typically in these report cards were kind of put out there by ESPN and The Athletic. Steelers apparently said that players cite inadequate maintenance and excessive wear from hosting local college and high school football games. Players across the league note the poor condition of the field and emphasize the need for investment to bring it up to standard. They're making it clear that players across the league, not even just Steelers players, do not like the Steelers field. It is the worst graded in the NFL. Something I didn't really know about, and I try to pay attention to this a lot, and it was very surprising for me. And it makes it very clear Art Rooney II is very unwilling recently to invest in these fields, and facility ratings show that he's not willing to invest there. I keep mentioning the Cardinals. I think the Cardinals grade could look different in a few years because of the things they're adding by 2028. But their locker room, which I don't think they've announced plans for yet, is still an F-. Their training room's a D+. Their weight room's a D+. Ownership's still the worst in the NFL at an F. Their dining area is a C minus. Their treatment of families is a D plus, and they're second to last rank, 31 in the league, and that's still kind of alarming. If you look at last year's rankings, they were last in the league, and it's still kind of the same issues. They had the worst locker room in the NFL, one of the worst training rooms in the NFL. These things will get updated, sure, but there's other things that the Cardinals still need to work on, specifically treatment of families and dietary stuff. Like their freshness of foods is consistently ranked at the bottom of the NFL. Their dining areas, they still kind of make players pay. It's a weird situation, but I anticipate the Cardinals move up in the next few years because of these rankings. I'm going to go in a little bit more of a positive direction with this one. Miami finished 1, Minnesota finished 2, and that's kind of been the same ranking for them over the last few years. I know it doesn't turn into Super Bowls, it doesn't turn into major wins, but these matter. Treatment of their players matter, and it shows. I mean, Kansas City, I know that they went back to back, and then they went and had like the worst ownership grade in the NFL that offseason. But it matters. These things matter to have good grades. Treating your staff, treating your workers, having a good environment matters. And Minnesota and Miami consistently have that. I mean, both ownerships get A and A pluses. Their treatment of families is near the top of the league. Their home game fields are near the top of the league. Their food and dining areas are near the top of the league. Locker room, training staff, weight room. I understand that these teams have had some inconsistencies over the last few years. These teams have had, Miami has completely changed their front office and coaching staff this year. But these are important parts for taking care of your players and establishing something. I know that people say that's soft. I know Miami has a reputation of being soft, especially over the last few years. But I don't think this adds to that. Treatment of families, treatment of your players and your employees matter. Some more positives. Washington actually is so much better compared to the grade they had 2 years ago when they had Dan Snyder leaving as owner. Washington now has a B plus in treatment of families. They have a much better food dining area, nutritionist and dietitian, their training room, training staff, weight room, strength coaches, all in the A's. This is a much, much better organization compared to how they were 2 years ago and how they are today. I think there's a lot of criticisms for Josh Harris and specifically how he runs the 76ers. It has been a difficult situation there for how their employees are, but that is not the case with Washington, it looks like this year. They have the third best ranking in the NFLPA, and if you told me that was the case 2 years ago, I would have been shocked. I mean, seriously, like 2 years ago, Washington had an F minus locker room, an F minus training room, an F training staff, and a C weight room where they were 32nd, 31st, and 25th. Today, they are A minus, A, and A. It is a drastic turnaround for an organization that had one of the worst facility situations in all of the NFL, while they're also building a brand new stadium. Some other crazy takeaways. The Packers, they're the team that fell 14 spots. They were 7 in 2025. They are 21 this year. And a large part of it is that the ratings for their training room and training staff fell to bottom third in the league. And the lack of space, outdated equipment, and it is probably a reason why they've had some injuries this year. There's a lot of things that happened to the Packers that were disappointing. And what's good about the Packers is that this has been an organization that consistently says, you know what? Yeah, we have to fix this area when a ranking happens, and they address it. They added some more locker room stuff, I believe, a few years ago, and I think that they'll probably address this over the next year. Matt LaFleur dropped a full letter grade, which is kind of crazy considering everything that happened with the Packers this past year and their fan base calling for his firing. Then he was extended. I think that some of these things will be addressed this next year, but it is crazy to see LaFleur fell. The Steelers are also not the only team in the AFC North that have bad rankings. The Bengals and Browns are notorious for being at the bottom of these lists every single year. The Browns are 30th this year, and they were 30th last year. The Bengals are 28th. And the Bengals, what they're worst at every year is treatment of families. I have no idea what they're doing to their players' families, but it has to be bad for it to be an F minus. They still have the worst dining area in the NFL. They still have the worst nutritionist plan in the NFL. Everything else has gotten bumps up because they've built new facilities recently since Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase went there, but still not great. It's just their treatment of everything's kind of weird. The facilities in the A's, though, that's kind of what's carrying them. The Browns, treatment of family, a D-, food, D+, locker room, an F. The Browns have started building a new weight room, or they already, I think, built it. Their travel's a D-. It's not great. It's why they're 30, but yeah, it's just weird for the AFC North to have 3 of the bottom 4 teams. There's also like really random grades for teams. Like the Broncos have a really bad locker room. The Bucks have a really bad locker room. The Cowboys, I mean, it's been known that the Cowboys' biggest issue that their players have grievances with is the training staff for years now, because players have to like book, if it's a hotel, they have to book in advance if they want a trainer to work with them, if they want someone to help them deal with their injuries. Something Cowboys players have tried to talk about in these NFLPA reports. And it's a reason why players in the offseason, specifically Trayvon Diggs, who was known in Dallas as a guy that didn't really take his rehab seriously, rehabbed outside of the team facilities because they didn't have that much of a training staff and training room to really help him out, he thought. The Giants, clearly their players are not fans of Joe Sheen. The Lions and the Raiders both had low rankings on their OCs, specifically the Raiders. They hated their OC. It's the one negative grade they have on their entire report card. And the Patriots, who, I mean, Robert Kraft was the guy that was the biggest advocate for getting rid of the NFLPA report cards. But Kraft's team wasn't 31st this year. They were 26th in a year where they made the Super Bowl. Their bad rating is mostly in team travel, where players consistently have to like be in weird situations. They don't get Wi-Fi in planes, which I know sounds like a weird thing to complain about or a baby thing to complain about, but these are professional athletes and adults that have to travel all the time. So yeah, that's my thoughts and takeaways from the 2026 NFLPA report card process, where I still think this is really important, not just for the players, but for fans and analysts as well. It gives us insight into things that aren't really covered in organizations, things that not a lot of people are aware of. People didn't know how little the Cardinals ownership cared about their facilities until just a few years ago when this initiative started. I think this is its 4th year now of this initiatives, and it wasn't even something that, I mean, they probably pushed for it to be leaked, but they didn't have the official release this year. I think that this forces ownership, forces franchises to be accountable. It forces them to be honest and look in the mirror, something that owners in sports have largely ignored for a long time. The Commanders before Josh Harris with Dan Snyder were a disaster when it came to everything that Snyder could fund for the organization. But when Harris came in, he fixed a lot of those things. The Cardinals are actually addressing things for the first time in a long time. It doesn't mean it's perfect. It doesn't mean that it can unfairly criticize someone in the building. It's just honest, and it helps these players find employment that they can enjoy. Anyways, this is Son of a Sports. I hope y'all enjoyed this video. I hope this continues. I hope the NFLPA keeps putting it out there or it gets leaked again next year. And yeah, I'll catch y'all next time.